Hey, this is Mark at the Motor City Nightmares 2021. I'm here with legendary filmmaker John Russo. He was one of the guys behind the making of the classic Night of the Living Dead, and he's done plenty of other cool horror movies. Tell me, sir, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So, how did you get started into filmmaking?
Well, I always wanted to be a writer, and we had a group of friends, including George Romero. We all met when we were 18 years old. George came to Pittsburgh to go to Carnegie Mellon University, which used to be Carnegie Tech. He was a fine arts major, and his first day there, he met my friend Rudy Ritchie. We both graduated from the same high school, and Rudy said, "You have to meet this great guy, George Romero." He said, "We're supposed to be drawing the nude model, and he's drawing scenes from Ben-Hur." So I said, "Oh, great." So I was at WVU, and I came back for Christmas and jumped in Rudy's car, and we drove to George's place in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh, honked the horn. George came down to the street wearing a big sombrero, two bandoleros of ammunition, two pistolas, and a big drooping black mustache, and he got in the car. We were so cool, we didn't say a word, drove to a Dairy Queen, tried to get ice cream, but the girl slammed the window shut and wouldn't wait on us. So eventually, we all wanted to do creative things, and eventually we started making movies, which George had already been doing before he left New York.
Now, how did the script for Night of the Living Dead come about?
It's a little bit of a long story, but I came up with the idea as soon as we bought a 35 millimeter camera. I said, "Let's make a movie. We can probably do a better horror film than those junky things we've been seeing on Chiller Theater late at night." And we raised a little bit of money from friends and family and finance companies, and we got it started. And I said, George and I were the two writers in the company. We only had 6 people in our little company, the Latent Image. And I said, whatever we do ought to start in a cemetery, because cemeteries people find spooky. So I started writing a thing about, eventually, after some hits and misses on some things that we found we couldn't afford, with like space aliens coming to Earth and all that stuff, I started writing a thing where some kids are in a cemetery. One of them's wearing a ghoul mask. It's Halloween time. They stole a case of beer and they're hiding it. And they get caught, and the one kid gets punished and runs away from home, and he's running through the woods with his few belongings, and crack, he steps through a pane of glass in the ground. Underneath that pane of glass is a rotting corpse. So my idea was the aliens are already here. They like human flesh, and they like it a little bit rotten. Just like in the Middle Ages, when they shot a goose, they'd hang it up to rot for a few days. And so there's lots of panes of glasses with corpses under them. So then George came in, and he had written about 20 pages or 30 pages in story form about a girl and her brother in a cemetery, and the girl's getting chased after the brother gets his head smashed. And I read it, and I said, "George, this is pretty good. It has all the right twists and turns and suspense, but who's chasing this girl? You never say." He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, seems to me they could be dead people." He said, "That's good." I said, "But what are they after? You don't say that either." And he said, "I don't know." I said, "Why don't we use my flesh-eating idea?" So that's how they became dead people, after human flesh. Without those ideas, you don't have Night of the Living Dead or anything that came after it.
So you and George were the perfect combination to come up with this script.
Yeah, we kind of were like that, even with commercial jobs and different documentaries and things that we wrote. And I was always like an idea man, and I still am, I'll come up with 10 ideas to everybody else's one. That's just the way I am.
Now, during the production of the movie, how long did it take to make it?
Night of the Living Dead, well, to make it, like any movie, it took months to shoot it. We shot in about 30 days in 3 bursts. And the first burst was 19 days at the farmhouse, with a break to try to satisfy our commercial clients, and then back again. We had to go to Washington, D.C., which was also my idea. Let's just go to Washington, D.C. and shoot.
Oh, that was a great insert into the movie.
Well, we drove there in one day because we didn't have any money. We drove in one day, shot it without any permission at all, which you'd get arrested or shot if you tried it today. And then we drove back all in one day because Washington, D.C. is about 250 miles from Pittsburgh. So I said in a meeting, let's just go there. So I got into my Army uniform, and I was the general's driver. Carl Hardman had a car that looked like it could be a general's car and decked it out with flags and so on. And Al McDonald played the general. He had to change clothes on the sidewalk. By that time, we had all kinds of people gathered around the camera, and we held up blankets, and he changed into the uniform.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene. Now, tell me, what have you been doing since Night of the Living Dead? I know you're a writer, and I know you've made a lot of independent films. You've been doing a lot. Just give us like the top stuff.
What have I been doing? I've got about 40 published novels, and I've made about 15 feature films and tons of documentaries and commercials and every other kind of thing. Published magazines, published books, and I'm still going. I'm directing a movie right now. Well, I'm not actively directing yet because we're in pre-production with a film called Red Tide Massacre, which is going to be shot in L.A. and also in Florida. So the reason I'm here is because the schedule got moved. I wasn't supposed to be here, but the schedule got bumped a little bit, and I got here, came here at I got in touch with Tommy, who runs this convention, and she said, yeah, I'll always give you a table. So here I am.
You're one of the last guys from that latent image group that's still with us. I mean, that's got to be heartbreaking to be, lose all your friends from that era. I know Russ is still with us.
Well, Russ and I, we're still friends. I talked to him before I left, but I wouldn't say it's heartbreaking. I mean, at George's funeral in Toronto, I shed tears and I spoke at his funeral. But thing is, nobody lives forever. Hemingway had a friend that whenever they heard about a friend of theirs that died, and Hemingway's friend said, "There's people dying this year that never died before." So I say that sometimes, and not necessarily when a friend dies, but I will quip. I'm the one that makes people laugh when we're on stage. So, in fact, I have a book here with my jokes in it called John Russo's Dirty Jokes.
We got to check that out. Well, anyways, Mr. Russo, we don't want to take up too much of your time, but it was a pleasure speaking with you as always.
All right, thanks. Good luck.
And this is Mark with Comics Beer and Sci-Fi.